is sharing. I'm able to see the screen.
Yes.
So there are just three questions that I want to address is who, what, and why. So Pinaco Co is a business consulting firm that promotes and connects startups to investors. You can call us entrepreneurial ecosystem developers, and our mission is to discover and present to the world Eswatini's first unicorn. And I am happy about our mission to discover and present to the world Eswatini's first unicorn. Please hold on to that. So why do we exist? We have seen that the Eswatini startup ecosystem is underdeveloped and a lot of entrepreneurs can attest to this. And we lack alternative funding options. The only funding in Eswatini that is viable, it is debt funding. As Pinaco and Co, we specifically deal with venture capital. And if you can look at please just search after that call, search Pinaco and Co on our YouTube, and you will see a webinar that we had. We had a webinar on debt versus uh, venture funding, so you understand the difference between the two. So as VC funding is what we noticed, what we noted was that VC funding is flowing to many African countries except Eswatini. And this is to the policymakers as to why is this so? And this answer will be answered by Marcos in his presentation. And then what are we doing to make sure that VC funding is coming into Eswatini? We are currently building a startup marketplace with our technical partners, which I'll share shortly. Uh, this this will combine data and AI to rank and match investable startups with investors. So if you believe and you strongly believe that your business is investor ready, please do fill up our form on our LinkedIn page where you'll be in our database. And when our marketplace is live, you'll be able to, catch the fruits while they are still warm. And then the goal is to create the basis for global venture investment case for Eswatini and the rest of Africa. Next page. So how are we doing this? Obviously, we are doing this through our partners. We have our first partner, which is one we are co-hosting this webinar with, which is Youth Fund. As we all know, Youth Fund is mandated to assist Swatini youth to develop themselves economically. And then we also have GoGets. GoGets is a sentence-based venture capital and private equity partner, which provides an equity-based crowdfunding platform, allowing startups to raise capital between 1.5 million to 10 million. So if you are a startup and you are looking to raise 1.5 million to 10 million, please do contact us. And also, I have said that we had a webinar with GoGet, and please do refer to our YouTube channel where you will find this webinar and see how you can align yourself. And then we also have a partner, our partner Zion Venture Partners, which is also a private equity firm in South Africa. Zion Venture Partners is has a lot of services such as capital raising, venture capital investment, financial advisory, investment banking, and asset management, market research, risk management solutions. So through us, you can access all of this. All I can ask you and say to you, do follow us on LinkedIn, and then you will get all the information that you need. And also do contact, send emails at business@pinaco.co, partner@pinacoandco.com. Also, how are we creating our marketplace? Our marketplace was, we are creating our marketplace through a grant by Amazon with, and we are partnering with Atomic Computing, who are helping us to develop the marketplace, which will be live very soon. So please do follow our pages so you can be in line, and you don't miss any information. Next slide, please. So our other, we as Pinaco Co, we are, as I said, we are an entrepreneurial developer. Our other services that we provide is knowledge empowerment. Through our newsletter on LinkedIn, please do subscribe to our LinkedIn newsletter, which is currently on 1,200 followers. Please do like and read. Make sure you read and don't forget to share. Do not be a gatekeeper. Share information to other startups so we can build the Eswatini startup ecosystem. We also host webinars just like this one, where you will find past webinars that could actually be very helpful for you if this is your first time joining us. We recently just had a wonderful webinar on intellectual property, on how to register intellectual property in Eswatini. So do go to our YouTube channel, subscribe and follow us, and watch our past webinars. And also we are, as was I've said, we are a marketplace for investors and for startups and investors. And our marketplace is going to be live very soon. So if you have any information if you need any information or any clarity, please don't be shy. Do send us an email at business@pinacoandco.com or partner@pinaco.com. Thank you very much. I'd love for our partner Youth Fund to just quickly and briefly explain who they are and what they do. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Pinaco Co, for this opportunity. My name is Nophila Sibanze Dlamini. I'm with the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund. Can you just please give me a moment to share my screen? I'll just be giving an overview of what we are about as the Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund and what we do.
Yes,
Hello.
yes, we do.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Okay. The Youth Enterprise Revolving Fund is actually a strategic initiative to leverage potential of the youth population for economic development and sustainability in Eswatini. We are a Category A parastatal established by the government of Eswatini in 2009 to sort of provide loans to youth enterprises for the main purpose of employment creation. What we do really, we were established to support and promote youth entrepreneurship and self-employment, with our key objective being economic empowerment, which is to provide financial resources to young entrepreneurs to start and expand the business and help stimulate economic activity and create jobs. In Eswatini, where the unemployment rates are really high, especially amongst the youth. We are under the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Youth Affairs. Our vision is to be a leading and innovative, economically empowering financial institution for the youth of Eswatini. Our target group is the youth between the ages of 18 and 35, specifically the unemployed youth, so that they they get the skills to help them develop and create employment for themselves and their community members. Our mission is mainly to provide development finance and support to Eswatini youth, thus fostering their inclusive economic participation through innovative, accessible, and sustainable development. We have been providing this loan funding since 2009. The fund has faced a lot of challenges, but in our what we have learned while trying to deliver on our mandate are the following key challenges that mainly affect the youth. First one being the limited access to finance itself and business development support services, which is really key when we look at the target clientele that we are talking about, being the youth, being 18 to 35. We all understand that that clientele really doesn't have much experience in terms of business management. Maybe the skills also, business management skills and entrepreneurship skills, you find that they are also limited. Hence, there is a very great need for development support services, which is also can be affordable. There's also high competition that they are facing from larger firms. Remember, they are still trying to grow and there are a lot of challenges that they face, so they need support. So what we're saying is that SMEs, they face a tough competition from larger firms, which have more resources and economies of scale. So it is important that we assist them to focus on niche markets or specialize in areas where they can offer unique value, also provide innovative and different products, services that can stand apart from the larger competitors. There is also a limited technological adoption. As much as these young people start their businesses, but because of reasons such as limited financial muscles, you find that there's limited technological adoption, which then is a challenge because we are living in the fourth industrial era. So there is need really to invest in technology to improve efficiency and competitiveness of these youth businesses. So we really need to support. Other issues are around the regulatory and political hurdles, the processes of registering companies. They are so problematic. It is very difficult to maneuver. They can be time consuming at times. Also, there is a challenge of skills and talent shortage. There are quite a lot of challenges faced by Eswatini startups. This is just to give a preamble of the situation, with the hope that the discussion today will provide guidelines, or rather basis of the direction in which we can take in trying to incorporate or come up with strategies that will really help provide a solution. Thank you so much, Program Director.
Thanks, Pilar, for that introduction. Right now, I think it is time for us to delve into the business of the day. And before we do that, please drop on the chat box. I can see that we have people from across Africa. Please, can you just drop on the chat where you're from and what business are you doing? If you're an entrepreneur, please just share what business are you doing. And I know that there are other entrepreneurs in the building, in the call, that will, take even sharing your email addresses to, connect with other entrepreneurs. So yes, please do that on the chat. Right now, I'd like to give Mr. Dlamini, Lwazi Dlamini, the opportunity to introduce our main speaker, which is Marcos Withington. Please, Mr. Dlamini, can you just introduce our speaker and have him join and deliver? Thank you.
Right, thank you, Piwa. And I'd like to greet everybody in the webinar, and I'm so excited to see the attendance. I think I did interact with some of you on LinkedIn. Some were saying, they can't miss this. And there is one particular entrepreneur who goes by the name of the yogurt guy. He's from Malawi, I think. And he joined early in the webinar, 30 minutes before, and said he didn't want to miss anything that will be done in the webinar. So I'm excited to be here present today as both as a founder of Pinaco Co, but also as an entrepreneur myself. So I would like to take this time as a singular honor and privilege to introduce Marcos, who is an experienced startup ecosystem developer. You know, just like Pua mentioned at the beginning, that we are startup ecosystem developers, or you can say entrepreneurial ecosystem developers. And we have a mission that is very clear. Pure communicated it at the beginning that we want to help discover and present to the world Eswatini's first unicorn, because we know that Eswatini has gems, and those gems must be discovered. And this goes beyond just Eswatini, to look at the entire African continent, to say that we want to help develop the various ecosystems around Africa. So as you have seen on social media, Marcos is with StartupBlink, and they are one of the pioneers of startup research globally. And if you haven't had a moment, please go to their website, to the StartupBlink website, to just find out what they do. But they produce a report annually that is doing rankings of countries, top 100 countries, and also cities around the world. I think you would be familiar with Silicon Valley, which is the highest ranking ecosystem around the world. So they do a lot of work around ecosystem research and other services such as advisory to governments. And it's an honor and privilege really to have him present to us on the topic, unpacking the African startup ecosystem. And I'm looking forward to learning from you, Marcos, as we receive the content that you have prepared for us. So can we put our digital hands together as we welcome Marcos? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm very happy to be here. And I think we're very aligned with the mission that Pinaco is expressing about finding the first unicorn in Eswatini, where in the StartupBlink, our mission is very aligned to finding who are the best ecosystems and who can develop the recipe to make the best startup ecosystem. So I think in that sense, we're very aligned. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share screen. There you go. Yeah. So you're seeing the slide, right? Just the presentation?
We can actually see your notes if you can flip it.
Yeah, let me see if I can take this here. Can you see just the presentation now or the notes also?
We can now see the presentation. It's the presentation only now.
Only the presentation. Great, that's great. So thank you very much for this opportunity. As I want to introduce myself formally, I'm Marcos Withington. I'm based in Portugal. Actually, I'm from Argentina, and I've been involved in startup ecosystem development for the last 6 to 7 years. Before that, I was an entrepreneur working in the music industry. I've also worked in fintechs. I've worked in innovation. So I've been involved from both sides of the ecosystem game as an entrepreneur, and now more on the building of ecosystems. So I'm very excited to take you through an in-depth exploration of the African startup ecosystem and what's the perspective of our analysis and what we see from all the data that we cover. So as we unpack the various elements that make this ecosystem so vibrant and full of potential, we'll look at the key sectors driving growth, the opportunities and the challenges that exist, and the role of technology, innovation hubs, government policies in shaping the future. So let's dive into it. This is a little bit of an agenda, a quick overview of what we'll be covering. First, I'll start with introducing a little bit more about StartupBlink. Then we'll dive into the rise of the African startup ecosystem and explore the key sectors and trends that are driving the growth. Next, we're going to focus more a little bit on funding and opportunities and challenges that investors face. Then we'll discuss the role of technology hubs, innovation spaces, government policies in fostering these ecosystems. And to wrap things up, we're going to focus a bit on the hurdles faced by startups and some strategies that might serve to explore a little bit further to overcome these. By the end of this session, I hope you'll have a comprehensive understanding of the African startup ecosystem and the unique opportunities that it presents. So let me tell you a little bit more about StartupBlink. As was mentioned before, we're a research center focused on mapping startup ecosystems across the world. We are mapping currently over 1,000 cities and 100 countries worldwide, and we launch yearly a global index report with insights about all of our rankings and how we build them, all the parameters that we take, what's our methodology, and some insights that we can read out of the data. Our work helps ecosystems benchmark their initiatives to providing critical analysis that supports policymakers, corporations, entrepreneurs, and investors to make more accurate decisions. We also specialize on working on policy advising, helping governments and organizations position and promote their ecosystem effectively. Through our live ecosystem portals that you can visit on our website, you can find there it's a live portal and free to access. We activate both public and private sectors, driving collaboration and innovation. So we're committing to fostering a vibrant startup ecosystems that can thrive and compete on the global stage. So jumping to the topic, as we delve into the rise of the African startup ecosystem, it's evident that the country is experiencing a significant surge in entrepreneurial activity. Today, I bring the top 10 countries and cities that are leading this transformation. This is out of our 2024 global report rankings. These countries include South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria at the forefront, with well-developed infrastructures and vibrant entrepreneurial cultures. South Africa, for example, boasts one of the most mature ecosystems in the continent, with Cape Town emerging as a global tech hub. Kenya, often referred as the Silicon Savannah, continues to lead in fintech and agri-tech, with Nairobi serving as a dynamic hub for innovation and investment. Meanwhile, Nigeria, with a strong fintech sector and youthful population, has become a powerhouse in the African startup scene, particularly in Lagos. Also, North America is also making significant strides, with Egypt and Tunisia emerging as strong players. Egypt, in particular, is becoming a crucial tech bridge between Africa and the Middle East, driven by a large youthful population again and increasing investment interest. As I mentioned here, you can see the 10 rank countries and cities that are leading the charge in Africa's startup revolution. These rankings reflect the dynamism and potential that each region brings to the continent's growing role in the global innovation landscape. Please reach out to me later so that I can share with you the full report, or you can also find it on our website and download it. It's completely free, and there you can go and see insights about each one of the countries, all the parameters that are taken into account to generating this rankings, and how they have changed from, I think it's live from 2019, that you can see the progression, and you can find all of the other countries in the 100 that I mentioned before. So to continue, various countries and cities across Africa are making significant contributions to the continent's growing startup ecosystem. But how does Africa's overall performance compare on a global scale, especially in the light of recent challenges in the investment landscape? So let's take a closer look at the global comparison and the funding trends within Africa. So as you can see in the graph on the left, the decline in the investment that we have observed is not unique to Africa. Globally, we've entered what many are calling funding winter, where investors are recalibrating their strategies in response to economic uncertainty. Even in traditionally strong markets like the US and Europe, venture capital activity has slowed significantly. However, Africa is not necessarily lagging behind. Despite the decrease in total funding year after year, the continent continues to attract significant investment, particularly in sectors like energy and health tech, which are gaining importance globally. The 1.2 billion raised in the first half of 2024, despite the challenging global environment, indicates that Africa's startup ecosystem remains robust. This figure highlights that investors still consider potential in African markets, especially in industries addressing critical needs like energy and healthcare. Overall, while fintech remains the leading sector, the growth of energy, clean tech, and health tech is encouraging and signals a shift towards sectors that are crucial for Africa's sustainable development. This trend shows that Africa's startup ecosystem is evolving, adapting to global trends, and positioning itself for future growth, even amidst the challenging global environment. Moving on to the entrepreneurial focus, I'll mention a little bit about the sectors. Fintech remains the dominant force, accounting for 45% of the total funding in 2023. That was a total of 3.2 billion in the whole year. However, there's a growing interest in energy and clean tech sectors, which saw a significant share of investment, particularly in the latter half of 2023. Startups in energy, especially clean tech, clean energy, have become pivotal, with companies like Kenya's Sunking or Wetelity in South Africa. These sectors not only promise high returns, but also address critical challenges facing the continent and on a global stage also. So if we delve a little bit deeper into the funding landscape in Africa, in 2023, Africa's startup ecosystem faced some challenges, with overall funding declining from the previous years to 3.2 billion. But however, there's signs of a lot of resilience and continuous attraction for significant investment. Kenya leads the way, securing 756 million in funding. This was largely driven by this strong tech ecosystem, particularly in Nairobi, and growing focus on sectors like fintech and renewable energies. Egypt also showed impressive performance with 500 million in funding, bolstered by strong government support and a rapidly expanding tech sector, especially in fintech and health tech. South Africa, despite facing some economic challenges, attracted around 450 million, with a mature ecosystem supporting fintech, software, and e-commerce startups. On the other hand, Nigeria, traditionally a leader, saw a sharp decline, raising only 398 million. This was due to a combination of regulatory challenges and broader economic conditions. Looking at the sources of this funding, about 70% came from international investors, while significant contributions from venture capital firms in the US and Europe. Local investors, including venture capital firms and corporate investors, contribute around 30%. And the majority of this funding, about 85%, was from private sources, with public investment making up to the remaining 15%. As we explore the opportunities and challenges in Africa's investment landscape, it's clear that there are immense opportunities, particularly in high growth sectors like fintech, health tech, and renewable energies. However, there are challenges that both international and local investors must navigate. These include inconsistent regulatory frameworks, across the different countries, political instability in certain regions, and market saturation in some sectors, and currency fluctuations. Yet, despite these hurdles, the potential in Africa remains vast. Untapped opportunities lie in sectors like agri-tech, where technology can revolutionize food security and agricultural productivity. That being one of the main issues and topics and trends that we're seeing across the globe, and Africa is positioned very well to tackle that problem. Additionally, the rise of edtech offers significant potential to address the continent's educational needs, especially in underserved areas. Finally, with urbanization on the rise, smart city solutions and sustainable urban mobility are poised to become major areas of growth in the African continent. As we look at the role of technology, innovation hubs, and government policies in fostering Africa's startup ecosystem, it's clear that these elements are foundational to the continent's growth and entrepreneurship. Tech hubs and innovation spaces are at the heart of this development and the communities that are being built in each one of the cities across the continent. These hubs provide essential support and incubation for startups, offering not only workspace, but also access to mentorship, funding, and collaborative community. For instance, iHub in Kenya has been a key player in nurturing Nairobi's tech scene, especially in fintech and mobile technology, by running events and generating a lot of networking within the city. Government policies also play a crucial role in shaping a favorable environment for startups. Countries like Kenya and Rwanda have implemented forward-thinking policies that encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. Kenya's Konza Technopolis, a government-led initiative, aims to build a world-class tech city, attracting both local and international tech companies. In South Africa, the National Youth Development Agency supports young entrepreneurs with grants and non-financial assistance, addressing the challenges of high youth unemployment and fostering a new generation of innovators, as we saw earlier by my peers in the presentations. International partnerships further enhance these ecosystems. Global collaborations bring much needed capital, knowledge transfer, and market expansion opportunities. For example, in Kenya, the presence of international tech giants like Google and Microsoft has significantly bolstered the local ecosystem, making Nairobi a leading tech hub in Africa. These combined efforts of tech hubs, government policies, and international partnerships are what drive the growth and sustainability of Africa's startup ecosystem, making it very vibrant, dynamic, and increasingly competitive on the global stage. We always see that all of these different pieces need to be aligned and work together in order to achieve the biggest impact in the ecosystems. As we've analyzed, it's essential to understand each one of the different countries in Africa and their current situations, to acknowledge both the challenges and the strengths that shape the landscape. Overall, across Africa, we can identify that infrastructure deficit remain a significant hurdle, with unreliable electricity, poor internet connectivity, and limited transportation networks impeding operational efficiency and scalability is one of the topics that we can put on the challenges basket. Talent gaps also present a major obstacle, as shortages of skilled workers, particularly in technology and management, limit innovation and growth. Regulatory hurdles, as was mentioned before, add another layer of complexity with inconsistent and restrictive environments across different countries, creating barriers to entry and increasing operational cost. The digital divide, characterized by disparities in the access to technology and internet, limits the reach of digital products and services, particularly in rural areas. Scalability issues also prevalent with diverse regulations, languages, and economic conditions across the continent make it difficult for startups to expand regionally and globally. Lastly, the informal sector poses challenges as it comprises a large portion of the economy, making it difficult for startups to access reliable data and integrate with formal financial systems. But all challenges that are mentioned here are actually opportunities that are still waiting to be developed. So let's dive in a little bit about the strengths of the African startup ecosystem so that we can start to see what are the strategies or the avenues that we can go through in order to try to solve them. So we find that the African startup ecosystem boasts several key strengths. The continent's mobile-first market, driven by high mobile penetration, offers a unique opportunity for startups to reach a large audience through mobile-based solutions in finance, health, education, and commerce. Africa's young and growing population, which is increasingly tech-savvy, represent both a significant market for digital products and a potential talent pool for startups. So in order to develop both the talent pool and this segment is a great opportunity to startups and entrepreneurs that know how to position their digital products. There's also a strong entrepreneurial spirit across the continent, driven by necessity and innovation, which can be further fueled by supporting grassroots initiatives and entrepreneurship education. International interest and investment continue to flow into Africa, providing capital, mentorship, and access to global markets. Lastly, emerging tech hubs in cities like Nairobi, Lagos, Cape Town serve as vibrant ecosystems that can act as launchpad for startups looking to scale regionally and globally. And we see many other hubs being developed that can follow in the steps of the mentioned hubs that already have a vibrant ecosystem. So there's a lot of room to grow within the African continent. So it is crucial to leverage these strengths and various avenues like focusing on mobile first strategies to bridge the digital divide, invest in talent development through collaboration with educational institutions and governments, engaging in policy advocacy to create more supportive regulatory frameworks, and enhancing infrastructure through public-private partnerships, and promoting scalability through regional collaborations are already being implemented by various players across the continent. So as we conclude, it is clear that Africa's startup ecosystem are brimming with potential and resilience. The challenges we've discussed are real, but so are the strengths that provide a solid foundation for future growth. However, it is crucial to recognize that Africa is not a monolith. Each country's ecosystem has its own unique challenges and opportunities. This means that a one-size-fits-all approach simply won't work. Instead, we need to deeply understand the specific context within each ecosystem to devise clear and effective paths forward. By doing so, we can ensure that African startups are not just surviving, but truly thriving in the global market, driving innovation and creating lasting impact. Thank you for joining me today, and as we explore the vibrant and dynamic landscape of Africa's startup ecosystem. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or continue.
I see questions. Thank you, Marcos, for that presentation. I can see that we have a lot of questions on the chat. Oh, they are okay. There are no questions on the chat. It's just greetings. If there are any questions just on the presentation that Marcos has made, on the startup ecosystem in Africa. As you can see, Kenya is leading, and Eswatini is not in the map. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done here in Eswatini. Marcos, I just want to ask, I think this is just my question to ask that, as Eswatini, as we are building our startup ecosystem, how can we, position ourselves to, be at the top as Kenya? How can we position ourselves? I think my question is, how can we position ourselves to,
Different.
be at that level?
I think that thank you for the question, firstly, and I think exactly this that you're doing is a crucial initial step. And at the beginning, it might seem that it doesn't generate a lot of tangible value, but we keep on seeing across the board in every region of the world, in South America, in Africa, in the Middle East, where there are no other huge or one of the best hubs in innovation. The first steps at all the ecosystems that end up being positioned in the global stage is by generating a thriving community of entrepreneurs and opening the doors and making connection and putting up bridges between the neighboring ecosystems so that you can join forces, get interest from outside, get investors to come to these meetings and provide visibility about what's going on within the ecosystem is always the first step that we see for a thriving ecosystem. So I think it's crucial that you continue to do these kinds of events, webinars, and any kind of activity that is in line with providing visibility to the world and providing access to the information about what is going on in Eswatini. That is the first initial step. And the second main thing that I would recommend on focusing is analyzing and understanding, because it's crucial that you are able to compete with all the other ecosystems in the world. What's happening in Eswatini at the moment is not unique. There are thousands of ecosystems around the world that are posing the same questions and they're facing the same challenges of how can we position themselves. So at the end of the day, everyone has to understand that every ecosystem is competing with each other. So you have to find your strengths so that you can focus and double on that to communicate to the world that is where are the strengths within the ecosystem, so that you attract the right kind of investors, the right kind of talent to your ecosystem. And once you understand that and you start to communicate that, you see a much more rapid growth in the ecosystem.
Thank you, Marcos, for that clarity. Also, can I just ask, what is the number one challenge that is faced by the African startups? Like just biggest challenge that you have encountered in your research?
Yeah. So actually, the number one challenge, as I mentioned, and I think closer to the end of the presentation, it would be a mistake just to mention one, but since the question is framed that way, I will emphasize on what we believe and what we've seen, that smaller ecosystems, if they focus on this and solving this deficit that is related to technology. Because I mentioned in my presentation that infrastructure deficits, talent gaps, regulatory hurdles, and scalability issues are some of the challenges that across the board African ecosystems and entrepreneurs are facing to be able to grow. But the digital divide and the access to technology is what might provide a very quick acceleration of the ecosystem. So I would focus completely on one of the avenues that we've seen that it's had a lot of impact within the African continent is the application of strategies to develop digital products that are focused on a mobile first market. So it's thinking about how can you simplify your offering and so that it can be accessible on a mobile first market. So I would emphasize on that point because I think that is going to open the doors to being able to access the huge population, to open up your potential market to a bigger population. So I think that would be, but apart from that, all the mentioned challenges in the presentation, I think is important to cover them all on a similar basis also. So we can't just focus on one thing and expect everything to follow in line. But yeah, if I had to focus on one, it would be how to the digital divide. How do you tackle the digital divide and strategies related to mobile first market and how to access it and how to provide services to a mobile first market? I think is a.
Thanks so much, Marcos,
yeah.
for that. You know, when you talk about technology, I have seen. Oh, you still not? Sorry, Marcos.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, as I was saying that you know when you touch on technology, I've seen that a lot of startups that are getting funding are startups that are technology based, and I think it is important in this age to to align your startup to what technology is it bringing in and building that technology to say that as a startup, I'm in the fintech space, I'm in the agri-tech space, I'm in the health tech space. So yes, there's a question from Nokpila. What lessons can we draw from other African countries who have managed to create sustainable startup ecosystems for their economy? What can you say on that, Marcos?
Definitely. Again, to mention, iHub in Kenya, CC Hub in Nigeria, Kiali Innovation City in Rwanda. They're all examples of tech hubs and innovation spaces that played a crucial role in the development of those startup ecosystems, because a startup ecosystem at the end of the day is a big salad of a lot of different condiments that need to come together in order to build something that is that generates value. And if you're missing one of the crucial condiments, being the government support, the corporate and the investor side, you can't build an ecosystem that grows. So I think the main things to follow is reach out to these ecosystem hubs, the tech hubs in the other countries, reach out, present yourselves as a hub, fostering and promoting Eswatini as a government, and copy many of the initiatives, the events that they launch, the way that they communicate, the way they present their startups is always good to again, every ecosystem is competing against each other to source more investment, to gain corporate interest, or to get more collaborations with international organizations. So the better you present and you make your information more accessible for all of these parties, that's what is going to make the most important change.
Thank you, Marcos. Nokpila, I hope you have been answered. Or is there a follow-up question from that one? And if you have one, please unmute and you can ask.
Thank you so much, Piwa. I think he did justice to my question. I really appreciate it, Marcos.
Thank you.
I hope on the call we do have someone from RSTP, because I think also this question Nokpila has posed and Marcos' response really do align with them and how they can develop the Eswatini startup ecosystem. We have another question from Bantwana on they're asking if there are any sort of networks for African startups that they could connect with just to get inspiration and hear about their success stories.
Yes, yes, definitely. Some of the tech hubs, again, a tech hub is the launching pad for every startup ecosystem, and there's usually more than one in each one of the cities that I've mentioned. But just to mention one, iHub, CC Hub, Kigali Innovation City in Rwanda. There you can find and see many of the startups that are developing solutions in those regions, in those countries. And you can get inspiration because at the end of the day, copying what Uber Eats has done in your region, it's a challenge because you need to adapt to your own ecosystem. So I encourage we always encourage that, looking outside what's happening out in the world, to get inspired by solutions and bringing them to your region, your country, your city, in order to adapt them and make them function within the city. So, but to answer specifically, definitely focus on finding hubs within Africa that you can, in their websites directly, you can get and engage with their networks.
That is very true, Marcos. But Rana, I hope you have been answered. I mean, I've seen trends on this different with this different businesses that are being created at this day and age, especially with AI. They build similar products, but with an addition to what suits that place or that ecosystem. So I think even for Eswatini, not to say I believe that even for Eswatini, taking technologies such as Uber, but making it something that will suit Eswatini and how we look into the taxi business, and how we can then improve it and make it our own, and not literally to say we are copying, but we are looking at the system and creating our own we are referring to the system and creating our own blueprint. So I think to build our own startup ecosystem, that is how we should look at into it. Because I mean, in this day and age, you don't have to go and do a lot of research. You just go with that just one click of a button. You have all the information you want. Even people that code now, they don't go back. They have AI that can tell them that if you want to code this is how you do it, and you just improve it to make it suit your business and suit how you want it to work for you. So there's another question that was okay. I think Sebenele is just making a comment. He says my startup is I am a manufacturing detergent and in the clothing industry, and my startup is based in Manzini. Funding is a huge concern, more especially to us who are still new in the business. And I think this is one of the questions that is one of the challenges that most of Eswatini startups are facing, Marcos. As I presented in our slides, that Eswatini has a gap, especially when it comes to venture capital. And we all know that in order for you to fund a startup, you need that break. You need maybe 3 years, 4 years break of paying back. Just to see that your business is now sustainable. And what we have in Eswatini is debt funding. And sometimes the debt funding, you find that it is not even sufficient to pay the first 3 months of the business. And you find yourself stuck and doing one and the same thing. So I think it is one of the huge spaces that, one of the huge problems that we are facing, which is finance. And I just want to ask how we can maneuver through that, and to bringing. I know that you have mentioned that we need to put ourselves out there on the spotlight, and that is quite a challenge to say, this is Eswatini, we know Eswatini now. But I mean, yeah, that is our biggest challenge. I mean, do you have any comment on that? Because
The short answer is visibility. I would say that it's what you are mentioning is happening across the world. And again, the point here is to understand that every startup is competing against all the other startups in the world for investment, it being in the form of help from the government or VCs or corporate investment. So if you understand that you're competing against each other, the point here is how do you build the best case so that you get the investment? And the best way to do it for every ecosystem and smaller ecosystem is that you have to build credibility. How do you do that? By ganging up with the hub within your city. Go there, try to help the hub get involved so that maybe you and other startups within your industry that you might not be competing between each other, but you are kind of in the same industry. Then you can start looking for corporations that are interested in those industries. You can start doing research about what multilateral agencies are interested in developing African ecosystems, and you can go and present yourselves to them. Why do I say join before you go and present yourselves? Because for corporates, the main problem that corporates and VCs, the main problem that they face is a credibility problem. If you go alone as an individual with a startup idea, you don't have much credibility just because you had an idea or you have a project. You need to be able to go hand in hand with your network, your ecosystem, because that shows that you're committed to your startup ecosystem. And that helps a lot for corporates to say, okay, I understand this. So I might be a little bit more open to engage with an Eswatini startup because they are coming hand in hand with the hub. So it's a more stable thing. And multilateral agencies, the same thing. If Eswatini, you build up your database and you have a bulk of startups that you can present to a multilateral agency, their goals of investment and helping African ecosystems are very tied to numbers. So it's much easier to get help from multilateral agencies if you're presenting yourself as a block, as a group with X amount of startups that are divided into X industries. So I think it's very, very important to understand that you're competing. So you have to build a case and present yourself, and the best way is to do it together.
Thank you very much, Marcos, for those words. I mean, that is very true. You know, with us as Pinaco Co, we are very open to partnering with, and we have taken the advance to partner with Youth Fund, RSCP, where, you know, just to create that network and create that credibility to say that Eswatini startup hub, that startup does exist, and they are looking for, you know, funding. And it is very important that we as startups also we join together to create a unity. Yes, you are competing for your own business and you are, you know, competing at your own level, but there are certain things, as Marcos has just mentioned, such as funding, that needs us, especially in this space. We are competing with big startups that have, you know, reached series series higher series of funding, and their business are seen as viable. And not to say that ours are not viable, but we are at Eswatini, a small kingdom next to South Africa, a big hub with a big population. So in order for us to make more noise, as from Marcos, taking from Marcos, we need to work together, you know, join together as startups and build this startup ecosystem. And please do go on LinkedIn and fill up if you haven't registered for our startup hub, for our startup hub form, please do on our LinkedIn page, Pinaco Co. And, you know, let us build the Eswatini startup ecosystem so we can always put it on the map, and not to say that people from other countries that are in the core, I hope you are taking this down to say that in your country, you are building, join, unite, and create a powerful movement for startups so that we can be able to, grab these opportunities that are being presented. Kenya out there is topping us. We are here in Southern Africa. It's only South Africa that is visible. Let us make noise as, startups, and then we can be able to, push the government to see that, there are startups in the country. Because even for government, it's hard for them to find these startups because we are scattered everywhere. But if we are connecting in one place and we are able to be seen in one platform, we can be able to, show that, okay, now the next step is to take these startups and show them to the world. So thank you very much, Marcos. Are there any questions before we can close the call? You can just raise a hand. Hi, Junior.
Hello.
All right, you can go on, Junior, and then after Junior, Kumbuzo will come in.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm really honored for Marcos. Thank you so much for the presentation. The gentleman speaking right here is Twinomasco Jr., commonly known as the Yogurt Guy, based in Kampala, Uganda. I do basically agribusiness. Partner with smallholder farmers for their commercialization projects so that they can earn a living from their small agro products. When you were telling us, you talked us about fintech being #1 in the most funded projects. And I think agri-tech came as
Sorry, Junior, you are breaking.
My worry is, as we are working on the best, looking at submitting to the, apologies.
No worries.
Am I clear now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good. So I'll go back. You told us that fintech comes in at #1. Agri-tech comes in at I think #4.
Yeah.
If I got it well. Personally, I'm someone who has immersed myself into agriculture, basically helping the smallholder farmers, because we all know in Africa, the smallholder farmers occupy more than 85%. The commercial farmers are the ones that occupy about the 15, which is more so the very listed capacity of the productions. And it's the smallholder farmers that are feeding us on the day-to-day meals and the agro products that we consume in our daily lives, ranging from vegetables to everything that we consume every day. Now, what is that nugget that you can give an agro entrepreneur or an agri-tech, an agri-tech person that is looking at also applying or benching for financing through Pinaco, so that they can at least advance their investment, they can advance their ideas, so that they can also hit the global market with the products? Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for the question. Definitely, agri-tech is one of the industries that, from our analysis, we definitely believe that in the next couple of years and decade, we're going to see this whole industry have a surge of more startups within the African continent, specifically for what you mentioned, that 85% of the production is made by small household farmers. So there's a huge opportunity for agri-tech startups, because at the end of the day, the tendency and the trends that we see within agri-tech are focused on tools and technology to develop precision agriculture using sensors, drones, data that you can even look at it within your mobile phone it can help you optimize your crop yields. And these are all solutions are being developed specifically for smaller, medium-sized farms, and not the big corporate players. And in Africa, there's a huge knowledge already in place, and there's a huge segment of, as you mentioned, small household farmers that they could leverage a lot, or maybe not boost the quantity of what they produce, but boost a lot the efficiency of how they produce it by leveraging technology. So if precision agriculture, supply chain innovations, and even agri-fintech solutions that help farmers access to credit, insurance, advancing payments, enabling them to invest in better inputs and improve the productivity are great. There's a great case in Kenya, Farm Drive, that uses mobile technology and data analytics to provide small holder farmers with access to credit by assessing their credit worthiness based on alternative data sources. So it's basically providing smallhold farmers with access to credit so that they can invest now to gain better yields in the future. This is just one option that you can leverage and bring it to Eswatini, because all of these innovations that are happening across the world, agri-tech is one of the main industries receiving interest by investors and corporates, because they already understood that is going to be one of the main pillars of the future, and that we need to leverage technology to be more efficient and ambient conscious. So there's a lot to do in that vertical.
Thank you, Marcos. Skumbuzo, you can ask your question. I hope, sorry, Skumbuzo, Mr. Yoga guy, I hope you are answered on that one. I guess he's answered. Skumbuzo, you can ask your question.
Thank you. Great presentation, I must say. A quick one for me. We are just at the preliminary stages of establishing an AI hub in Eswatini. I'm just interested in getting to pick a few lessons in the AI hubs that we have engaged with on sustainability. If you were to take away the funding, chances are at the initial stage you would maybe get some kind of funding. But going forward, if you were to take that away, what can you share that is happening with other AI hubs to make sure that they continue to thrive and grow beyond the support that they might have got initially? Thank you.
Definitely. So when we speak with ecosystem developers and they're focusing on developing their own hubs, it's good to understand again that it's not something that you're doing it because it's just good to have a hub. A hub has a place in the ecosystem, and it needs to provide value to the players within the ecosystem. So it's very important to identify which are the players in the ecosystem. A hub provides value to corporations, provides value to governments, provides value to multilateral agencies, and it provides value to VCs and private investors. So you need to develop your product to be able to sell that value to the government, to the corporates, to the investors. And each is, by defining it like this, a hub does not depend on their sponsors. It's not a sponsorship business model, the one that a hub needs to live under. Because if you live under the sponsorship model, yes, you're dependent on the goodwill or on the capacity of external players to be able to support your hub. But if you shift to a mindset of having your own business model where you sell value to each one of the players that I just mentioned, everything becomes more clear because you can go and present yourself with all the corporations that have offices near Eswatini in the neighboring countries or in any other country in Africa. You can go and present yourself and bring to them a flyer or a presentation of what is the Eswatini ecosystem comprised of. What is the value within Eswatini that you can tell them, hey, you're missing on something. Here is what we have. Come to us and we'll help you harness all this this innovation, all this startup power, all this talent. So it's very important to change the mindset from a sponsorship kind of business model to an actual business model where you're selling value. It's very, very important.
Thank you, Marcos. Just to add on that, I think also it is important to, connect with government, Eswatini government, especially your ICT, because if you are going to sell a hub outside, but you can't sell it inside your own country, then how will you know that, so it's very important to also connect with the local so that you can see. So even with them, they probably have invitations that will, even open up for you and your hub to say, to build that credibility. So I think also just to add on what Marcos has said, and on the chat, I think David also asked the same question. David, I hope you are answered, because I think what Marcos has just said, it also just, aligns with your question. It answers your question. David, I hope you are answered. I guess he is answered. Do we have any more questions? Yes, Nkosi, you can come in.
Thank you so much, Piwa, and everyone else on the live. And I'd like to say we really appreciate Marcus's presentation. Was very insightful, and I'm happy that he emphasized on the point of collaborations, because I want to believe that as Eswatini, we really would go far if we can leverage on what is already existing on the ground and sort of link it up together instead of doing silo pieces on the side. I just wanted to follow up on the one that you mentioned on the agri-tech. I think I missed on the example that you made, because I think my bias, well, obviously I'm working with the agriculture, and then we are working with some women and youth groups, and we are trying to come up with that model that he sort of mentioned on the financing agri businesses of smallholder farmers with that model of the credits. I think you mentioned something that
yes, Farm Drive.
Yes, yeah. Please share. What's it?
Farm Drive is the startup. Farm Drive.
Yeah.
I'll write it in the chat here.
Okay. I think for me that's it's a model that can work even in the other, besides just agriculture, because most of the small and medium enterprises or startups would not have that. There's that thing about the lack of credit. So if we have something like that that can prove some creditworthiness, and I think that could help in terms of access to finance. Thank you very much.
It's definitely, that's one of the main topics that is happening across the board. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm from Argentina, and we are mainly agricultural country too, and we're facing the same exact problem. And there are many agri-tech, fintech startups developing there to be able to provide access to investment and credits and loans for small startup, small farmers, household farmers that need to get ahead on the technology wave to be able to maintain their productivity at a cost that they can make a living out of it. So there's a lot of ways to connect the fintech industry with the agricultural industry, and mainly focused on providing tools to small household farmers for them to be able to access this how technology helps them scale or make their farms more productive. So honestly, the best place is identifying what is the technology out there that could benefit a small household farmer, and then build a startup that is basically the bridge between the technology and them. At the end of the day, many of these business models rely on what the farmer at the end of the year sells, and the startup gains a fraction of that in the late by advancing the money that the farmer needed to buy or implement the new technology in order to produce everything at a lower cost. So at the end of the day, you're becoming partners with the small household farmers. But there's many different business models. It's very interesting to investigate a little bit more about what are the different startups around the world doing in this specific agri-fintech sub-industry, because there's many business models being tried out across the world that are definitely worthwhile looking to see which one fits the best the situation in Eswatini, and no one knows it best than a local entrepreneur.
Thank you so much, Marcos. Ngozi, are you answered?
Very well answered. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll follow up on that also, Marcus, and do a bit of the research on the other. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions? I guess we have exhausted our questions. Please do follow Pinaco Co on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Also, we have webinars on our YouTube channel, our past webinars where we are discussing all the types of financing and how you can finance your startup. We also looked at intellectual property, on how as a startup you can protect your intellectual property and who to contact in Eswatini if you want to protect your intellectual property. And I think as we build this marketplace for Eswatini, we are going to take Eswatini from not being known to the best startup ecosystem in Africa. And Marcos will be documenting that. Marcos, thank you very much for your presentation. We have recorded this presentation, and it will be available on our YouTube channel to share with other startups that were not here. So if you have a friend and you'd like them to, you know that this information will be valuable to them, please do share and continue to follow us on our LinkedIn for more information and more upcoming webinars. Mr. Lamini, can you please jump in and give us the closing remarks, and so we can close?
All right, thank you so much, Piwa. And I'm not sure if I did share at the beginning that I am Ian Lamini, that's my name. And I happen to work for a regulator for now, on a full-time basis, Central Bank. And I co-founded Pinaco Co. a while in 2022. And this was stemming from my almost 10 years in innovation management. And we are looking at some of the gaps that were there that were highlighted by Marcos today. There is a quote that really inspired me way back in 2010, I think, when I conceptualized an idea of a think tank and innovation hub. The quote is by J.F. Kennedy, which says that ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And it is that challenge that I've placed on myself to say that what can we do to develop the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the country? You know, and we choose to look at challenges as opportunities. And we believe that what we have been able to get today will help us get the building blocks we need to build the next generation businesses. And I'd like to highlight, I've got 4 points that I have here that Marcos spoke about. And the first one is the aspect on the rise of African startup ecosystem. I think we did see a slide where he was talking about the top 10 countries in Africa and the top 10 cities in Africa. And I will also embed this with a quote to say that nothing happens on its own. Be it the government, be it the startups, be it the investors, they have to do something. And I'm sure if we double click on each of these countries, we'll find a lot of the things they have done around developing technology hubs, government support in terms of policy frameworks, and international collaboration as well. I think we did see one of the examples that Marcos spoke about with Google and Microsoft in Kenya coming in on board as an international a partner to really fast track the development of that ecosystem. So as we are seeing the rise of the African startup ecosystem, we believe that we all can play a role. As a startup, listening to what Marcos had said, you also can play a role, whether you are a government agency, whether you're a fund, just like EF, there is a role that we can all play. And then the second part that he spoke about is also on the funding. You know, there was a slide there where he placed fintech, e-commerce, and health tech at the top sectors that are receiving funding, 4.9 billion. And that for me is just showing the potential that the African continent has, and by extension Eswatini. And there is a quote that he shared with us, you know, that I'd like to retaliate, which says, although the decline in investment might seem concerning, it's part of a global trend affecting startups. You know, we talk about the winter season, you know, in the startup industry. And we are saying, he also said Africa's continued attraction of significant funding, especially in sectors like energy and health tech, is a positive sign. And those are the words that I'd like us to take as we exit this webinar, that indeed we are attracting funding into Africa. And there's one fund that I heard about that is being set up in one of the African countries, a $30 million fund. There are other funds, $1 billion that was set up in Rwanda by UNDP. There are various funds that are being set up across the continent that are helping to support startup entrepreneurial ecosystems. And I pray and I hope that we'll all take advantage of this opportunities. Also on funding, he mentioned a statistic that is very interesting for me, that when we explore the investment opportunity and challenges in Africa, we are seeing that about 70% of funding flowing into Africa is actually international funding. And with the local one at 30%, we can see that indeed VC funding and all other types of funding like grants, you know, Piwa mentioned that we received grant funding from Amazon. So there is funding that is flowing into Africa and is coming from international partners. And what was most interesting as well was the statistic on private funding versus public. 85% private versus the 15% that is public. And this goes to show that, you know, the business climate in Africa is really attractive. And we as the startups, as entrepreneurs, we are contributing towards the pull and push factors that we are seeing. And then the other one, second but last slide, you know, we saw the aspect on the innovation ecosystem, that there has to be intentionality in really developing the innovation ecosystem. And here we are talking support and incubation, skills development, community building, you know, and public sector funding or support and encouraging entrepreneurship. So there are a lot of these things that still need to happen. But as I said earlier, it's one block at a time. And the last thing that he shared with us was a quote that I think, you know, it summarizes his presentation very well, that the startup ecosystems in Africa are unique. We've got unique opportunities and unique challenges. And that is why, as Africa, we need to understand these nuances and tailor strategies accordingly so that we can ensure that African startups do not only survive, but they thrive in at the global stage. So with those remarks, I think I will hand over to Piwa to then close the session with a word of prayer. And then we are going to continue engaging. She did share some contacts of how you can contact us. But as we have said at the beginning, we are on a mission to discover and present to the world Eswatini's first unicorn. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lamine, and thank you so much, Marcos, for honoring our invitation. And can we just pray and then we can close the call? Sorry, Marcos, were you saying something? Thank you, Lord, for this day that you have made for us. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be able to share with entrepreneurs in Eswatini the opportunities that are available for them. And thank you, God, for, giving us this platform to be able to create impact in people's lives. And God, can you continue to protect the Eswatini startup ecosystem and give us the wisdom to continue building it. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.